The night was quiet, but the cold was sharp. Snow fell without stopping, and the streets were almost empty. A single man walked slowly along the road, carrying a small bag of groceries. His name was Thomas. He was a single father who lived with his young son, Daniel. Life had never been easy for him, but he tried his best every day. Thomas had just finished a long shift at work. He worked at a small repair shop in town, fixing machines and tools. The pay was not much, but it was enough to cover rent and food. He dreamed of giving Daniel a better life, but for now, he was happy if his boy had a warm bed and dinner on the table. As Thomas walked home, the snow crunched under his boots. He pulled his coat tighter around his shoulders, wishing he could hurry, but the icy wind slowed him down. He thought of Daniel, probably asleep by now, curled under the blanket. The thought of his son's small smile gave him strength to keep moving. Just as he passed the town park, a sound caught his attention. It was faint, almost lost in the storm. At first, Thomas thought it was the wind whistling through the trees. But then he heard it again. It was not the wind. It was a cry. Thomas stopped and turned his head. The park was covered in white snow, the benches and swings almost hidden. Then his eyes caught movement. Two small shapes huddled together near a bench. His heart began to pound. He stepped closer, brushing snow from his hair as he squinted through the storm. The shapes became clearer. They were not animals. They were children. Two girls, wrapped in thin clothing, sat on the cold ground. The older one held the younger tightly, trying to keep her warm. Their lips trembled, and their faces were pale from the freezing air. Thomas knelt in front of them. His voice was soft and careful. "Are you all right?" The older girl lifted her head. She looked no more than 12 years old. Her eyes were filled with fear, but she tried to be strong for her little sister. "We're cold," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "We don't have anywhere to go." The younger girl pressed her face against her sister's chest, too weak to speak. She looked about 7, her small hands red from the cold. Thomas felt a deep ache inside him. He knew what it meant to suffer. After his wife passed away, he had spent nights wondering if he could take care of his son alone. He had seen hard times, but never this. 2 children in the snow with no home, no coat, no one to help them. "You can't stay here," Thomas said firmly. "You'll freeze." The older girl shook her head nervously. "We don't know you." Thomas nodded. He understood their fear. Strangers were not always safe. But he could not walk away. He reached out his hand gently, not forcing them, but offering hope. "My name is Thomas," he said. "I live close by. I have a warm home. My little boy is waiting for me. You don't have to be scared. Just come with me until morning. You'll be safe." The girls hesitated. The younger one lifted her head and looked at him with wide, tired eyes. Slowly, she reached her small hand toward Thomas. That simple act gave courage to her sister. Thomas helped them stand. They were weak from the cold, but they followed him step by step. He removed his scarf and wrapped it around the younger girl's shoulders, even though it left him shivering. The walk back felt longer than ever. Thomas held the younger girl's hand, while the older one walked close, still cautious but grateful. Snowflakes covered their hair, and their footsteps marked a fragile path behind them. Finally, they reached his small apartment. Thomas opened the door, and warm air greeted them. Inside, Daniel was asleep on the couch with a blanket, waiting for his father. The two sisters stared around the tiny room. It was not fancy, but it was safe. The smell of warm soup from the pot filled the air. Thomas guided them in and closed the door against the storm. He did not know who they were or why they had been left in the snow. But as he looked at their tired faces, he knew one thing for certain. His life was about to change in ways he never imagined. Because soon, someone else would come looking for them. Someone powerful. Someone who would break down in tears when the truth was revealed. The apartment was small, with only 2 rooms, but to the two sisters, it felt like a palace compared to the freezing park bench. Thomas quickly set down his grocery bag and guided them toward the couch. He noticed how their lips still trembled from the cold. "Sit here," he said softly. "I'll make something warm for you." The older girl hesitated, glancing at the door as if afraid he might lock it. But then she saw her younger sister shivering. With a sigh, she nodded and helped her sit on the couch. Daniel stirred under his blanket and rubbed his eyes. When he noticed the strangers, he sat up. "Papa, who are they?" Thomas gave him a reassuring smile. "These girls were outside in the cold. They need a safe place for the night. Be kind to them, Daniel." The boy nodded, his sleepy eyes wide with curiosity. He scooted closer, staring at the younger sister, who tried to hide behind her sibling. Thomas filled 3 cups with warm milk and brought them over. "Drink slowly," he told the girls. The younger one took the cup with both hands, her fingers shaking, but once the warmth touched her lips, her eyes softened. "What are your names?" Thomas asked gently. The older girl hesitated, then answered. "I'm Anna. This is my little sister, Rose." "Anna and Rose," Thomas repeated with a smile. "Beautiful names. My son is Daniel. You're safe here now." Anna looked into his eyes. She wanted to believe him. There was no harshness in his face, only kindness. She gave a small nod but still kept her guard. After they finished the milk, Thomas brought them spare blankets. He tucked Rose in on the couch and gave Anna another blanket to share. Daniel curled back under his own blanket, but he kept looking at the girls, full of questions he did not ask. When the room grew quiet, Thomas sat near the table, staring at the two sisters. Who were they? Why were they alone in the snow? He wanted to ask, but he saw how tired they were. It was not the time. As the night deepened, Rose drifted into sleep, her small face peaceful at last. Anna, however, stayed awake, watching Thomas carefully. He noticed her eyes open and decided to speak. "You don't have to be afraid," he said gently. "I know it's hard to trust strangers. But I promise, I only want to help." Anna's lips pressed into a thin line. "People make promises," she whispered. "Then they leave." Thomas felt a sting in his chest. He thought of his late wife. She too had made promises to Daniel, but life had taken her away too soon. He understood the pain behind Anna's words. "I can't change what others did," Thomas said quietly. "But tonight, you and your sister will be warm. That much I can promise." For the first time, Anna's eyes softened. She wrapped the blanket tighter and leaned her head against the couch, exhaustion finally pulling her into sleep. The next morning, sunlight broke through the clouds. Snow still covered the ground, but the storm had calmed. The smell of warm porridge filled the room as Thomas stirred the pot on the stove. Daniel sat at the table, his eyes bright with excitement. "Papa," he whispered, "will they stay with us?" Thomas glanced at the two sisters, still wrapped in blankets. I don't know, Daniel. But we'll help them until we understand where they belong. Soon, Anna woke up, followed by Rose. Their faces looked fresher after the night's rest, but there was still sadness in their eyes. Eat something, Thomas said, placing bowls in front of them. Rose ate quickly, her hunger clear, while Anna ate slowly, still cautious but grateful. After breakfast, Thomas finally asked the question he had been holding back. Where are your parents? Anna froze. She lowered her spoon and looked down at her bowl. Rose's eyes filled with tears, and she clutched her sister's arm. They're gone, Anna whispered at last. Her voice shook, but she did not cry. We've been alone for a while. Thomas said nothing for a moment. He only nodded slowly. He did not press further. Whatever story lay behind those words was painful, and he would not force them to relieve it yet. Instead, he said, you can stay here as long as you need. We'll figure things out together. Anna looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this man was different. What none of them knew was that far away, in a tall glass building that touched the clouds, a powerful CEO was searching desperately for two lost sisters. And very soon, their worlds would collide in ways none of them could imagine. In the heart of the city stood a tall building made of glass and steel. Inside its top-floor office, a man sat at a wide desk covered with files and photographs. His name was Mr. Adrian. He was the CEO of one of the largest companies in the country. People often spoke about his success, his wealth, and his sharp mind. But what most people did not know was the secret pain he carried. Adrian's family had been broken years ago. His younger sister had passed away, leaving behind two little girls. Adrian had tried to take care of them, but through a chain of mistakes and unfortunate events, the sisters had slipped away from his reach. He searched everywhere, using both his money and his power, but he could not find them. Every night he sat in his office staring at their photographs. Anna, with her brave eyes, and Rose, with her small bright smile. He had promised his sister that he would raise them, protect them, and give them everything they needed. But now, months had passed, and there was no sign of them. That morning, his assistant entered the office quietly. "Sir, we still have no news," she said, placing a folder on the desk. Adrian closed his eyes. "Keep searching. I don't care how much it costs. I will not stop until I find them." The assistant nodded and left, leaving Adrian alone with his thoughts. For all his power, for all his wealth, he felt helpless. He would have given everything he owned just to see the girls safe again. While Adrian searched in silence, far away in a small apartment, Anna and Rose were slowly adjusting to a new life with Thomas and Daniel. The two sisters were still shy, but the warmth of Thomas's home was something they had not felt in a long time. Rose laughed when Daniel showed her his toy car collection. Anna, though still guarded, helped Thomas wash the dishes after meals. One evening, as Thomas fixed a broken chair in the kitchen, Anna finally spoke. "Why are you helping us?" she asked softly. Thomas looked up, surprised. "Because you needed help. Because no child should be left in the cold." Anna studied his face. She had met many adults who turned their eyes away when she and Rose needed kindness. But Thomas was different. His words carried no hidden motive. He meant them. Rose skipped into the kitchen holding Daniel's hand. "Anna, look. Daniel says he will teach me to draw." Anna smiled faintly. It was the first time Rose had smiled so brightly in weeks. That night, as the children slept, Thomas sat at the table deep in thought. He could not keep the girls forever without answers. Someone somewhere must be looking for them. He decided he would go to the town office the next day and ask if anyone had reported missing children. The following morning, he dressed in his worn coat and prepared to leave. Anna looked worried. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To see if I can find out where you belong," Thomas replied gently. "Don't be afraid. I'll come back soon." Anna's lips tightened, but she nodded. She did not want to lose the little safety she had just found. At the town office, Thomas explained what had happened. The clerk listened carefully and then searched through files. "We haven't had a local report," the clerk said, "but these things are serious. I'll pass the information forward. Someone may be looking for them." Thomas thanked him and walked home, unaware that this single step would start a chain of events leading directly to Adrian, the CEO who had not stopped searching for the two sisters. That evening, as snow began to fall again, Adrian sat in his office staring out at the city lights. His phone rang. On the other end, a quiet voice said, "Sir, we may have found something. Two girls, matching the description, have been reported in a nearby town. They're safe with a man who helped them." Adrian's hand shook as he gripped the phone. His heart, which had felt heavy for so long, began to race. "Where?" he asked, his voice breaking. The assistant gave him the address. Adrian stood up from his chair at once. His eyes filled with tears he had hidden for years. At last, there was hope. The search that had stolen his sleep and haunted his days might finally be over. The evening was calm in the small apartment. Daniel and Rose sat on the floor, drawing with colored pencils. Their laughter filled the room. Anna sat nearby, carefully folding the laundry that Thomas had just brought in from the drying line. Thomas watched them quietly. His tired eyes softened as he saw the children enjoying themselves. For so long, his home had felt heavy with silence after his wife's passing. But now, with Anna and Rose, there was life again. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed on the door. Thomas frowned. Visitors were rare. He stood up and walked over, wiping his hands on a cloth. When he opened the door, he froze. Standing there was a tall man in an expensive coat. His dark hair was neatly combed, but his eyes looked tired, as if he had not slept in days. Behind him stood another man in a black suit. "Are you Thomas?" the stranger asked, his voice deep but shaking slightly. "Yes," Thomas replied carefully. "Who are you?" The man hesitated, his eyes moving past Thomas into the apartment. When he saw the two sisters on the floor, his chest rose sharply. His lips parted, but no words came out for a moment. My name is Adrian," he said finally. "I've been looking for those two girls." Thomas stiffened. He glanced back at Anna and Rose. Rose had already hidden behind Anna, clutching her arm. Anna's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Adrian took a small step forward, but Thomas held up his hand. "Wait. You can't just walk in here. Tell me what you mean." Adrian swallowed hard. "They are my nieces. Their mother, my sister, passed away. I promised to raise them, but I lost them. I've been searching for months." His voice cracked on the last words. The man who was known as a strong CEO in the outside world now stood trembling like any broken-hearted uncle. Anna rose slowly, pulling Rose to her side. She stared at Adrian with wide, doubtful eyes. "Uncle." "Adrian," she whispered. Adrian's heart nearly burst at the sound of her voice. He stepped forward, his eyes wet. Anna. Rose, it's me. I never stopped looking for you. Rose peeked from behind Anna, her small voice trembling. Uncle. Adrian knelt down at the door, no longer caring about appearances. Tears spilled freely down his face. Yes, Rose. I'm your uncle. I've missed you every single day. The room went silent except for the sound of his quiet sobs. The strong CEO who commanded hundreds of workers now knelt on the floor, broken with emotion. Thomas stood still, unsure what to do. He had not expected this. Part of him wanted to protect the girls, but another part saw the truth in Adrian's tears. No one could fake that kind of love. Anna's body shook. For months she had been the strong one, carrying the burden of keeping Rose safe. Now, faced with the man she once knew, her walls began to fall. Slowly, she walked forward. Rose followed closely, clutching her hand. When they reached him, Adrian opened his arms wide. The two sisters hesitated for just a moment, then rushed into his embrace. The warmth of family, long lost, returned in that single moment. Adrian held them tightly, as if afraid they would disappear again. His tears fell on their hair, but he did not care. His voice shook as he whispered, "I'm so sorry. I failed you once, but I'll never let you go again." Thomas felt his throat tighten. He looked away, giving them their moment. Daniel, who had been silent, whispered softly, "Papa, are they going to leave?" Thomas placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Maybe. But if they do, it's because they're going home." For the first time in months, Adrian felt a spark of hope. His nieces were safe, alive, and in front of him. But deep in his heart, he also felt gratitude toward the man who had saved them from the snow. He looked up at Thomas, his eyes filled with both tears and respect. "Thank you," Adrian said quietly. "You saved their lives. I can never repay you." Thomas shook his head. "I didn't do it for thanks. I just couldn't walk away." The evening stretched on, filled with tears, questions, and quiet joy. But even as the warmth of reunion filled the apartment, one question remained: what would happen next? Would Anna and Rose leave with their uncle to live in the city, or would they stay in the small home where kindness had sheltered them when no one else had? The answer would soon test all of their hearts. The apartment was quiet after the first wave of tears. Adrian still held Anna and Rose close, as if he could never let go again. Their small hands clung to his coat, and their faces pressed against his chest. For a long time, no one spoke. At last, Anna pulled back slightly. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "Why did it take so long?" Adrian's chest tightened. He brushed her hair gently. "I searched everywhere. I never stopped. But the world is big, and mistakes were made. I blamed myself every single day." Rose looked up at him, her voice trembling. "We thought, maybe you forgot us." Adrian shook his head quickly, his eyes filling with tears again. "Never. I could never forget you. You're all I have left." Thomas stood near the table, listening. He saw the bond between them, the kind that could not be faked. He knew then that Adrian truly cared. Daniel tugged at Thomas's sleeve. "Papa, are Anna and Rose leaving now?" Thomas looked at his son's worried face. He sighed and knelt down. "Maybe, Daniel. They have family who loves them. But even if they leave, it doesn't mean we'll forget them." Daniel bit his lip and nodded, though sadness filled his eyes. He had grown attached to Rose in just a short time. Adrian rose to his feet, still holding the girl's clothes. He turned to Thomas. "I owe you everything. If you hadn't found them that night, I don't want to imagine what could have happened." Thomas shook his head. "You don't owe me. Anyone would have done the same." Adrian gave a faint smile. "Not everyone would have opened their home to strangers. You showed them kindness when the world turned its back." The moment grew heavy again, and silence filled the room until Adrian spoke once more. "I want to take them home with me. I can give them safety, education, everything they need." He looked at Anna and Rose, then added softly, "But only if they want to come." Anna stiffened. She glanced at Rose, who was already leaning against Adrian, happy to be close to him again. But Anna's eyes drifted to Thomas and Daniel. This small home, though simple, had given them something they had missed for so long: warmth, laughter, and care. She felt torn. That evening, Thomas made dinner. The children sat together, but the air was different now. Rose was cheerful, asking Adrian endless questions about the city and about her mother's favorite stories. Adrian answered patiently, his eyes shining with love. Anna, however, stayed quiet. She ate slowly, her mind filled with thoughts. After dinner, Thomas stepped outside to take out the trash. Adrian followed him. The cold air stung, but both men ignored it. "Thomas," Adrian said, his voice low, "I want to do what's right for the girls. But I see how much they trust you. Anna especially. She looks at you the way a child looks at someone safe. If I take them away too quickly, I fear I might hurt them again." Thomas folded his arms, thinking carefully. "They need stability. They need love. You can give them many things I can't. But they also need time. Maybe, let them decide when they're ready." Adrian nodded slowly. "You're a good man, Thomas. I see now why they survived this long. You gave them hope." Back inside, Anna sat with Daniel. He showed her a drawing of a house with 4 stick figures inside. "See," he said proudly. "That's you, me, Rose, and Papa." Anna smiled softly, but her heart ached. She wanted that picture to last forever, yet she knew the truth. She and Rose had an uncle who loved them and was waiting to take them into a better life. That night, Anna lay awake while Rose slept soundly beside her. She stared at the ceiling, caught between two worlds: the warmth of Thomas's small home and the promise of Adrian's strong arms. In the other room, Adrian sat awake too, staring at the sleeping faces of his nieces. He whispered softly, "I'll wait for you to choose. I won't force you. But please, don't shut me out again." The snow outside fell gently, covering the world in silence. Inside the apartment, hearts wrestled with love, fear, and the weight of choices that would shape their future. The morning light touched the small apartment. Snow still covered the streets outside, but inside, the warmth of a new day began to spread. Thomas brewed tea while Daniel set the table with simple care. Anna and Rose sat close together, their faces quiet and thoughtful. Adrian, who had spent the night on the small chair near the window, still looked tired but hopeful. Breakfast was served, but the air felt heavier than before. Rose chatted with Daniel, her voice light as she spoke about the drawings they had made. Adrian smiled at her, his heart swelling with relief that she was safe. Yet, his eyes kept moving toward Anna. She had hardly spoken since the night before. Finally, Thomas broke the silence. "The girls should have time. They've been through much. Decisions cannot be rushed." Adrian nodded, though his heart longed to take them home immediately. I understand. But I can't stop thinking of my promise to their mother. I swore I would protect them. Anna lowered her spoon, her eyes fixed on the table. Our mother wanted us safe, she whispered. But when she was gone, no one came. Her words pierced Adrian's heart. Anna, I tried, he said softly. I searched every day. I sent people everywhere. I never gave up. Anna looked at him at last. Her eyes were not angry, but they carried the weight of sorrow. We were so cold. Rose cried at night. I had to be strong for her. And then Thomas found us. He gave us food, warmth, and kindness. He didn't even know us, but he saved us. Adrian turned his gaze toward Thomas. His throat tightened with gratitude and guilt. I see, he whispered. You were their shield when I was not there. Thomas shook his head gently. I only did what anyone should do. But Adrian knew better. Not everyone would have opened their door to two strangers in the snow. This man had given his nieces something money could not buy: safety when the world was cruel. Later that day, Adrian invited the children to walk outside. The storm had passed, and the streets were lined with white snow. Rose held Adrian's hand eagerly, asking questions about the city where he lived. Daniel walked beside her, proud to show her how to kick snow into little piles. Anna walked a little behind, holding Thomas's hand. She felt torn between two lives. Adrian's world promised comfort, school, and a future free of hunger. But Thomas's world was small and simple, yet filled with honesty and care. At the park, Rose laughed freely for the first time in weeks. She made snow angels with Daniel while Adrian watched with a smile. But Anna stood quiet, her hand still in Thomas's. Do you want to go with your uncle? Thomas asked gently. Anna's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. I love Rose. I want her happy. And she is happy with him. But I don't want to leave this home either. It feels like family here too. Thomas's chest ached at her words. He knelt beside her. Family is not only blood, Anna. Family is love. You can have both. Your uncle will never take away what you've found here. Anna wiped her tears, but her heart still struggled. That evening, Adrian spoke privately with Thomas again. I don't want to take them away and cause more pain. But I cannot leave them behind either. They belong with me. Thomas nodded. You're right. But maybe you don't have to choose between taking them and leaving them. Maybe the answer is to stay close, to let the children see both worlds until their hearts are ready. Adrian considered this, his sharp mind turning over the thought. For once, it was not about business or power. It was about love and patience. That night, as the children prepared for bed, Anna whispered to Rose, do you want to live with Uncle Adrian? Rose smiled softly. Yes. I miss Mama, and he reminds me of her. But I also don't want to lose Daniel and Thomas. Anna hugged her tightly. Then maybe we don't have to lose anyone. In the quiet apartment, two families had begun to merge, one bound by blood, the other by kindness. But the path ahead was still uncertain, and the final choice had yet to be made. The days that followed were filled with both joy and worry. Adrian stayed in the small town longer than he had planned. He wanted every moment with Anna and Rose, but he also knew they needed time before deciding their future. Each morning, he joined Thomas and Daniel for breakfast. The table was crowded now, but the warmth was undeniable. Rose often laughed with Daniel over small jokes, while Anna helped Thomas prepare meals. Adrian sat quietly, watching with gratitude. It was clear that this small apartment had given his nieces comfort during their darkest time. One afternoon, Adrian took the children for a walk to the library. He showed them picture books and told stories about their mother when she was young. Rose listened with shining eyes, clutching his hand. Anna listened too, though she stayed closer to Thomas. Later, at the park, Adrian knelt in the snow with both girls. "I want you to live with me," he said gently. "I can give you everything: a good school, a safe home, and a future your mother would be proud of. But I don't want to force you. I want you to choose." Rose hugged him tightly. "I want to go with you, Uncle. I miss Mama, and you make me feel close to her again." Adrian's heart swelled, but his eyes turned to Anna. She stood quietly, her gaze moving between Adrian and Thomas. At last, she spoke. "I want to go with you too. But I don't want to lose Thomas and Daniel. They saved us. They're family too." Adrian's throat tightened. He looked at Thomas, who stood nearby, silent but steady. Thomas gave a small nod. "Family can grow, Anna. You don't have to lose anyone." That evening, after the children slept, Adrian sat with Thomas at the table. The two men shared tea in the dim light. "They need both of us," Adrian said at last. "I can take them to the city, but they will miss what they found here. I don't want them to feel torn." Thomas nodded. "You're their uncle. They belong with you. But if you let them visit, if you let us stay part of their lives, they will never feel abandoned again." Adrian smiled faintly. "Then that's what I'll do. You and Daniel will always be welcome in their lives. I want the girls to grow with love from every side." When the morning came, Adrian told the children the plan. "You will come with me to the city," he said softly. "But this is not goodbye to Thomas and Daniel. You will visit them often. They will always be part of your family." Rose clapped her hands with joy. Anna let out a long breath of relief. She hugged Thomas tightly. "I was scared to lose you. But now I know we don't have to choose." Daniel looked sad at first, but Thomas placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, son. We'll see them again. This is not the end." The day of departure arrived. Adrian's car waited outside the apartment. Snowflakes drifted down as Anna and Rose hugged Daniel again and again. Rose whispered, "I'll write you letters," and Daniel nodded with a brave smile. Anna hugged Thomas one last time before stepping into the car. "Thank you," she whispered. "You gave us a home when no one else did." Thomas's eyes shone, but he kept his voice steady. "Be strong, Anna. Take care of Rose. And remember, our door is always open." As the car drove away, Thomas and Daniel stood in the snow, watching. Daniel wiped his eyes. "Papa, will they be happy?" Thomas placed an arm around his son. "Yes. They have their uncle now, and they have us too. They'll never be alone again." Inside the car, Adrian held both girls close. His heart was full, yet tears still ran down his face. For months, he had feared he had lost them forever. Now they were with him, safe at last. Anna leaned her head on his shoulder. Rose curled against his side. And for the first time in a long time, Adrian felt peace. The story that began with loss and cold had ended with love and warmth. Two families, once strangers, were now forever connected. And though the road ahead was unknown, one truth was clear: kindness had built a bridge between them, and that bridge would never break.